Hey everybody, it's Ping. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of At Ping. And we're out in the hills today, just doing a little hike. Thought, why not here? So we have a video submission. We're gonna get to that first. Let's have a listen.
As a guy who's about Chad Reed's age, I'm thinking, hey, I could go race Supercross, no problem. But realistically, I've been off the bike for 7 years and I'm thinking about getting back. I've been mountain biking and stuff. I've been trying to stay in shape, but for your suggestions, what should a guy in my situation coming back to bikes after a long time do in order to be safe?
Well, thanks, Landon. I appreciate you taking the time to send in that video. And there's a lot of things you can do depending on how cold the weather is where you're at. I mean, it's getting to that time of year where snow is going to start to fall. Until then, I would say get out on your mountain bike. That's probably the best cross training that you can do. It's the most similar to motocross. Push yourself, sprints, intervals, do some longer rides, you know, that'll build your cardio base, help keep your hand-eye coordination, balance, proprioceptiveness, all of that thing in tune so that when you get on the motorcycle, it's not such a big jump. So that'd be my recommendation for that. Once it starts getting cold, and I'm almost hesitate to say this because I sound like I'm a multi-level marketer or a vegan talking about being a vegan, but CrossFit. If you're trying to just improve your general preparedness and fitness, there's very few things that are as effective as CrossFit. You'll improve your strength, your gymnastic ability, your cardiovascular fitness. And if you're locked inside, there's just nothing better. I would tell you to be very careful about injuries. Make sure you're taking time to stretch and roll and take care of yourself. But it's effective, man, especially if you're gonna just do it for a stint, maybe 3-4 months to get through the winter. Phenomenal way to get yourself in shape. So that's my recommendation. Appreciate you repping the show with the hat. And you're a weird dude, man. I love it. Keep sending me videos. I'll keep answering them. All right, thanks, Landon. Part 2, or question 2 here, it says, hi, Ping. Part 2 question regarding technique here. First, I'm not fast on a motocross track by any means, and I don't even ride competitively, but I do find myself riding smoother, safer, and conserving more energy when I use better riding technique, as we all do. Standing on, or at least closer to the balls of my feet, gripping with my legs, attack position with my head forward and eyes looking ahead, and elbows up are the 4 or 5 most important tips I've picked up over my years of riding. I know there are tons of things like this that are habit for faster guys, but is there anything else you would add to this list that's a must for new or slower riders to work on? Also, all the top guys have good technique, but there are standouts like Renard, Wyndham, currently Roxon, AC Sexton, who all seem to be poster boys for perfect riding technique. However, when I think of RC, Villapoto, or Tomac, that perfect technique doesn't always seem to translate into the most championships at the top level. Kenny seems to have gotten so rigid about technique and hitting the same lines lap after lap that guys like Cooper Webb and Tomac, who can adjust and go with the flow a bit better, are seeing better year-end results. Even Jet Lawrence mentioned in a recent interview that Hunter's technique is almost too perfect and gets in his own way at times. Is there anything to this in your opinion, or am I simply overthinking it? Love the Whiskey Throttle Show and all your work for our sport, by the way. Keep it up. Thanks, Armchair Riding Coach. Interesting questions. Okay, so first of all, I would tell you that if I'm going to add something to that list of tips, it would be leave the clutch alone. I see a lot of guys come into a turn, 4 fingers on the clutch, pull it all the way in, and then, rah, 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 you know, kind of like riding it like a 2-stroke coming out of the turn. 4-strokes don't need to be ridden like that. Even a good 2-stroke, you should be able to, in most cases, just apply throttle, leave the clutch alone. As you're braking, you'll need a finger or 2 on it to pull it in a little bit and keep the bike from stalling if you're braking really hard. But once you've finished your braking and you enter the turn, leave that clutch alone, man. Do everything that you can with the throttle. Now, some really tight corners, tight ruts, you're gonna have to work the clutch a little bit just to keep it from stalling. But if it's any kind of normal turn where you can carry any momentum at all, try to just use the throttle. You'll find yourself making less mistakes, being able to ride longer, being smoother. It's just a much better technique. So that's one thing I would add. As far as pro guys, it's interesting what you brought up. But actually, I kind of had never really thought about that. There are a lot of guys with incredible technique who didn't really deliver titles. And all I would really say to that is I don't think Ken's a good example, because I think a lot of his issues stem from health issues related to all the surgeries he had. I was just talking about this with somebody else, and I don't know this for sure. I haven't talked to Ken about it to confirm it, but when you do organ transplants and maybe in this case cadaver exchanges, you have to stay on immune system suppressants to keep your body from trying to reject that. And those are that obviously affects your immune system, right? It stifles it. And the concept is so that your body doesn't reject this foreign object, but that also reduces your overall immune system. So I wonder if there's something to that, or maybe just all the surgeries. I don't know for sure, but I would say Ken's got other issues going on. It's not that his technique is too good. There are some guys who kind of overthink the technique thing, and it could hurt them. And when you look at like RC Villapoto Tomac, their techniques were there. It wasn't like they were doing it wrong. They just weren't as pretty to watch. You know, Wyndham, I would tell you Wyndham sat down too much. I would tell you at times there was things he did, his elbows would be down. It wasn't always perfect, but he was pretty to watch. And so be careful between those two things, because I think they can get mixed up really easily between a guy being technically sound and him just being pretty to watch. You know what I mean? There's a difference. So that's a really good question, but I think it's a long answer and probably not just cut and dry. But super interesting, man. I appreciate you sending that in, and maybe that's something we can beat up more in the future when we got more time in a different type of segment. Last one comes from, this is Caesar here. First and foremost, love your stuff, whether it is the Whiskey Throttle Show, testing out a new model or bike build, or your at Ping segment. It's always to the point and super informative. My question is simple. What is your daily driver, bike of course, and why? I've always been curious what you ride when you're not out testing. Anyways, keep up the good work and thank you. P.S. Not sure if y'all ever found out what it was, but I'm almost 100% positive that the song AC is humming in his segment of the Whiskey Throttle Show is Your Love by The Outfield. LOL. It was. We did figure that after the show. I just I didn't recognize it with him humming it. My daily driver. So I actually touched on this last week, and I have in my garage right now a YZ250 and a YZ F450. And those will be the two bikes that I probably hang on to this year. And it kind of changes though, man. You know, like some years I've had 125s and I say, okay, I'm gonna get into these all-star events. I'm gonna do the 2-stroke national on this thing, or I'm gonna go to Mammoth, so I want a good 450, or I've tried all kinds of stuff. You know, when the 350 came out, I had one of those. I've had the Honda 450 before. So I kind of, in the bike introductions that we do and shootouts, I figure out what bike I'm really comfortable on. And you know, especially in the shootouts, when you go back to back to back, you really can figure that out pretty quickly and easily. And that's the bike I try to keep if I can. I want to be just as comfortable as I can. I don't get to ride those bikes, as I mentioned last week, as much as I want, because I'm out testing so often. The bike that I get set up at home perfectly for me, I don't get to ride that much. So, but I do get a couple set up, and those will be my two machines for this year. I was actually sitting down with Mitch the other day, asking if we could put together the same motor package that RV used at the Straight Rhythm in his, the last time he did that on that YZ250. And he goes, yeah, everything's the same, let's do it. So I should have a pretty sweet YZ250 that I'll probably spend most of my free time on this winter. So anyway, thanks for the questions, guys. As always, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you've got video questions, or you can send them in a video format, do it. I appreciate it. If not, we'll answer them in writing as well. Thanks so much. See you next week.